If I may greet you in some of the Aboriginal languages that I'm trying to learn. Kwe, Hanzi, Ani, Bojo, Ho, Sego. There was a time when my ancestors arrived in a little boat from Europe. They'd been pushed out by religious conflict. It was 1765. Half of the families on the boat died on the way across the Atlantic Ocean. And they landed just before winter on the shores of what we now call New Brunswick. And the Mi'kmaq stepped forward and welcomed those ancestors. Are there any Mi'kmaq here? I want to say thank you, because I wouldn't even be here if you hadn't taught my ancestors how to survive that first winter. So I asked myself, have we extended that same generous welcome that Grandfather Commanda spoke about, that Elder Corshane spoke about? Have we as a country extended that welcome to the First Nations of this land? Let me answer that question by describing my visit to Saskatchewan when Charlie Angus, our NDP member there, took me before the water crisis happened. We visited a home, many homes, but I remember one in particular because 4 families were living in this government house that had been put in the wrong place where it would have been flooded. The elders told the bureaucrats it was the wrong place. And they built that house, and there were 4 families living in that house. 26 people. 2 weeks after I left, that house burned down. And the 3-year-old girl that I met died in that fire. Canada has not extended the welcome to First Nations that First Nations extended to us when we arrived. The other image in my mind is when I'm walking through the streets of downtown Toronto and I see homeless people on the streets of the richest city in the country. And a shocking percentage of those people on the streets trying to survive the winter are Aboriginal people, First people. This is a condemnation of our country, that we cannot house those who housed us when we first arrived. This is fundamentally wrong. I wear this bracelet that many of you are wearing to end First Nations poverty now, because the injustice of First Nations poverty is the single greatest injustice that Canada faces today, and we must not rest until that injustice is rectified. Mes chers amis, confrères et consoeurs, je veux dire aux Canadiens et Canadiennes partout, dans ce pays magnifique, c'est le temps de démontrer notre solidarité avec les communautés Premières Nations. Ils ont donné un accueil incroyable il y a des décennies. C'est à notre tour maintenant d'être à leur côté en demandant de l'action à la part du gouvernement fédéral, de l'action absolument nécessaire pour abolir la pauvreté qu'on trouve au sein de ces communautés. The very first thing that must be done. And I call on Stephen Harper, if he's watching what's happening at these gatherings across the country, and I hope you're watching, Mr. Harper, apologize for the residential schools as Prime Minister of this country. That will start the process of reconciliation. arbitrary cap that has been on the financing of First Nations programs, 2% per year. Take that cap off and start looking at the real needs of the children in these communities. The needs for housing, for education. We've never seen government surpluses the likes of which we see today. There's so much wealth being generated from these lands and from our peoples. There is no longer an excuse if there ever was one. We see corporate profits through the roof, many of them from taking resources from the very land whose settlements have not been addressed with the First Nations whose resources they were. That's wrong. I want to tell you that my NDP members of Parliament and our candidates and our members across the country are joining in solidarity with you in action days from coast to coast to coast. And we're very proud to do that. And as I said in my letter to the National Chief, after his very powerful speech to all Canadians just a few weeks ago, we will stand with you in calling for the funding, in calling for the apology, in calling for the restoration of funding for the First Nations languages. Because if you take away the languages, you're taking away the reality, the identity, the fundamentals of these communities. We will stand with you in demanding that our government sign on to the convention, the International Convention on the Rights of Aboriginal People. Canada should be in the forefront, not in the back. Mes chers amis, c'est le temps de prendre des actions nécessaires pour éliminer la pauvreté et l'injustice. It could be a dawn of great hope. I feel that spirit of hope beginning to rise up. But on the other hand, we still have a battle to wage, don't we? Because I know when we leave today, people are going to think in the halls of government perhaps we can go back to normal, which is to pay no attention to the crisis.
Yes, I do.
Please, we want to draw your attention. There are eagles flying above INAC offices right over here. When the eagles join with us, nothing can stop us together. My friends, the founder of our party, and I'll close with this comment, the founder of our party was a man named Tommy Douglas. And he always said, courage, my friends, it is never too late to build a better world. What we see amongst First Nations battling against poverty and injustice is courage. Some people will try to say that what is being asked for cannot be done. I say to you, don't let them tell you it can't be done. Thank you all very much. Have a beautiful day. Merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup, Jack. Thank you very much. Are the Mohawks